Good morning. I woke up this morning with to get this off my chest, that I need to share this. And I've been sitting with this for a couple days and having this inner battle with my intuition on whether or not to share this. And then this morning, there's some fear that comes behind sharing, especially on this subject. So, and when I talk about it, you'll know. So, I watched the fact that I had a hesitancy or a fear to share this. I woke up this morning and I heard, if you have a fear to do something, that means that there's a reason to do it, right? So, a couple days ago, I've been seeing, it's been hot in the collective, but I've been seeing a lot of synchronicities of the Ed Gein story, right? The Monster series. And normally I can't watch gore. Normally I can't. I'm too sensitive to watch anything like that, or killing or anything like that. But this has been, it was so in my face. And there's a part of me that was curious. And I never heard a story, never heard anything, right? So I watched it. I was completely captivated by it. I was engulfed. I was enthralled. But I also spent most of it in a trance state, because I was getting a lot of intuitive information throughout the series. And I'm just going to tell you what I got from it, because I kept hearing that a perspective shift. So I was I wasn't really being shown a lot of the psychological aspects of it, like the really in depth. I don't really get much insight on that anymore. I understand it. Like I can see the dynamics and I feel it and I understand it. But to actually communicate it intellectually is not really my strong suit anymore. It's about the energetics behind stuff, right? Um, so I'm gonna start with what I was shown with his mother being alive and then dying, or physically dying. There was an emotional, traumatic imprint that that was left in the house, and it's the crystalline grid. And the crystalline grid, if you don't know what it is, I'm sure most of you that are watching probably do know what it is. It's an energetic grid. So we have the magnetic grid, and Google it. And then we have the crystalline grid, and the crystalline grid holds memory. My light's just flickering. It does that sometimes. And sometimes I don't know if it's a bulb or if it's something else, but I'm talking about this. So, and I kind of feel a little bit of chill. So whatever. So the crystalline grid holds, if there's enough emotional charge in an area, it will actually stay in the crystalline grid. And anybody who comes across it will feel it, right? And the more emotional charge that's held, the more people will feel it. That's why when people go to, I'm going to say extreme places, when people go to, say like Auschwitz, anything to do with that world. And I'm going to bring that because that was like that, the World War II, like that was very much in the movie, right? The theme, part of the theme in there, right? In contrast to what was happening, right? So when people go to like the gas chambers, places like that, they feel a very heavy, sick energy. It's because that everything that happened there is being held in the land energetically. It's an emotional charge on the land, in the buildings. And so people who are sensitive enough that walk into there, they pick up on that. And so there is also a difference between something that is a memory or an emotion that is being held in the crystalline grid versus somebody actually feeling physically a spirit. So when a spirit is in a home or a person who's crossed over is in a home, there's a point to this that I'm getting to, and I'm feeling the urgency to get to that point, but I want to talk about this first. So when spirit can roam free, it can move around. And if there's an emotional charge or something held in the crystalline grid and there's a memory, it's just going to play over like a recording over and over and over. So you might see the same person coming down the stairs. It's like the same loop of a recording. And you'll see it only in that one area of a house kind of thing. And yes, sometimes spirit likes to be in a specific room and it's held more in that room. It's like, watch The Haunting, the series on Netflix. And if you already have, it's like the series with the kids, the man and the kids, and how he kept in the house and he's keeping them captive in a certain room, still energetically on the other side, not even in human form. So anyway, that home is also about emotional imprinting from trauma and how it stayed in the house too as well. Anyway, so when his mother died, he couldn't escape. He couldn't escape the control that she had because he was still living in that house, and there was so much emotional trauma imprint in that house that he was still reliving it as if she was gone. And I know that a lot of people think it's just psychological, but everything's energy first. And it's noteworthy to say that, and I did a little bit of research afterwards, that when he went into the institution, his behaviors subsided. Even before he started taking his meds, he stopped hearing his mother's voice because he was no longer in a house where the energy was kept alive, because the emotional imprinting in that house was in the crystalline grid, and it was like her voice was there constantly because the energy was still alive. And it is alive until it gets cleared. Right? So another one that I was shown and was Afghanistan, like all those places with all those wars. It's so heavy. It's so heavy with past wars over and over that it's so thick, that memory and that trauma and the fighting is so thick in the crystalline grid over there that history just keeps repeating itself because it's not cleared. It just keeps building and building and building, right? So that was kind of what I was shown was like in the house. It was like the longer he stayed there, it just kept building and building and building until the point where he had his reality and his fantasy, there was no distinguishing the two because he was completely consumed by that energy. And I think a lot of people, when they watch like the horror movies, don't understand that. I can't even say that because I can't say what people can and cannot understand. But here's an idea of when people, not even people, the houses that people say are haunted, and there's been these mass murders and all these things that have happened in there. It's because the stuff that happened in these homes is held in the crystalline grid of that house, and it hasn't been cleared. And so when new people move in, and you notice how it takes a while, like sensitives, like people who are like that are watching this that are like me would never move into that house because you'd literally walk in, I don't even think spirit would even bring us there, honestly, unless it was to be cleared. But the feeling in there instantly would be like, no, thank you. It would be very heavy and very dark. But a lot of people who are unaware, especially at first, they will live in there for a while, and then their energy gets used to that energy, right? They don't notice it, but that density actually starts to lower their vibration more and more and more and more. And to the point where they have reached the frequency that they are aligned with whatever emotional charge happened in that house. And then they start, um, witnessing things because they are then at that frequency to be able to see and to feel and to sense everything, right? So with that being said, I cried at the end for that little boy inside that man. And when Charlie mentioned in an interview, because I came across one of his clips, that he said afterwards he visited Ed's grave and he cried. What I was shown was that through Charlie, Ed was seen, heard, and validated. And of course judged, but I think that was there. Oh, that was already long there, right? And the part that touched me the most is somebody who is so tormented and wasn't given a chance, but also I was shown that it was like his life in this, there's a repeated series of events that need to take place sometimes for the collective consciousness to wake up. And it's interesting, as I was watching this, I was shown that back in that era, people didn't know anything about schizophrenia. People don't know anything about these dissociative states, like all of these things, right? Maybe a little bit, but not to the extent of even now, how I can identify case by case and a specific individual, the energetics that are behind the schizophrenia, the energetics, the sensitivities, and what's actually happening. So there's still a gap between that before, because right now they're still being treated like with meds and things like that, right? But it's actually something energetic happening behind the scenes. So in the show, I was like really impressed that he was being helped, but there was this boy that was finally getting to be seen and finally getting to be heard. And he really he wanted to be better. He wanted to be better. And he didn't know why he was the way that he was, especially that Charlie portrayed him in that. And feeling like he was going mad and he didn't know why. Right? And I think there's something to take away with having compassion. Having compassion. And I felt that because he, in the sense of the way that the show was portrayed, he wanted to be better. He wanted to do something good. He wanted to make his mom proud. Right? So then, after I was done watching the show, it sat with me for a while. And then I went to bed and I woke up at 3:00 in the morning and to my dog pacing back and forth in the house. And normally if she wants to go outside or she needs food, she kind of has her own little ritual she does to let me know she needs something. And this wasn't that. And this isn't the first time that she's paced back and forth like she's restless. And every other time that she's done that, it's someone on the other side using her to get my attention. And the moment that she was pacing, I knew, right? And I got this feeling, and I was being shown the show that I watched, that Ed, it was it was like Ed's presence, like I was being shown that, right? Like the movie, whatever, right? And then all of a sudden it switched to his mother. And the moment that I felt that, I was like, I don't like this. I don't know, right? It's because it scared me. Because you know what? Watching the movie, I was more frightened of her than I was of him. Like she was ruthless, right? There's an energy of something in her that's absolutely terrifying. Absolutely, right? There's no mercy with that woman. And it was like as if I felt like she was right there, and I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. But then there was sort of a softness. I felt a softness because that was my own fear. Um, of seeing her in the show, that was my own fear. And then I had this thought, like, why would someone like this come to someone like me? Like, why is she coming to me? And she was showing me, she's like, I'm not as bad. I'm not any worse than what you've done. And I was like, and then she showed me times when I was been really mad, and I've been really frustrated, and I've like yelled at my animals, and I've had this like feeling inside that I want to throw them against the wall, or I want to, like, I've had urges, like I've had things like that. I've never carried that out. I've never. And I'm like, whoa, because I understand in myself, there's something programmed in me, or there's something that has happened or I've witnessed, and I'm carrying that. And it comes up like that. So she was showing me moments where I have felt similar to her. And the only difference was I can stop myself. I'm aware of myself. And she didn't have that. And she reacted, and she projected that out. And she physically did the things that she felt that she wanted. Like she had no control, even over herself, right? And so that's the first thing she showed me was, you understand. You understand. And it's like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all, right? And then she told me, she's like, everyone wants to know his story. Everyone wants to, she's like, he was so popular with everything. Meaning popular even if it's in a negative light. And she's like, what about my story? What about me? And she's like, people don't understand. And she's like, it's like she wanted to be validated because people didn't dig into her story to see what happened to her that made her the way that she was. And she knew that it would never be on a big screen. And with me watching the show and being able to witness the fact that I had the ability to have compassion for a human being, no matter what they did, she realized that through me, she would be able to, she stood a chance at being seen. So, it was brief. It was very brief. And of course, when it comes in, it's very like telepathic. Like I was just being like shown clumps of like, it's not all word for word, right? It's like pieces of energy coming in, right? It's just like, I was just shown all of this and it softened my heart. And even yesterday, it was like sitting in my throat. And I have some coworkers that are very open-minded, and I thought about sharing this with them. And I didn't at first because I sat with it just for myself out of like a sacredness, because I'm not sharing this to say, oh, look at me, people. Like, she came to me. Like, I give zero fucks about any of that. It's not about the likes on here. It's not about that. The reason why I felt pulled to share this is to offer another perspective, to show that things aren't black and white. And maybe, just maybe, with the way that things are set in motion, there's still always a chance for compassion and redemption within oneself. And sometimes it takes another person being able to go into someone's story to feel for somebody and to have compassion for that person, for that other person to have compassion for themselves. There's a reason that Charlie took that on. And he did such an amazing job in the acting. But how much of it is actually acting when you can totally immerse your energy into someone else's energy? Because those people in those homes where the horror happens, because there's already an energetic influence in the house, those people aren't acting. They're actually under the influence of whatever energy is lingering in that house. That's not acting. So how much of Charlie's energy was influenced by an external energy for it to make sense? Like, I feel like acting is like pretending to do something you're not. And this gets a little fine line, but it's not that I'm saying that Charlie as an actor is this, and that he was so in Ed's energy that he would be influenced to do such horrific things. I'm saying that I think that Ed tapped into as much of the overall energy. I think the biggest thing he was tapped into was the inner child, the pain, the trauma, everything. I think that's the part that Charlie actually was able to tap into, because that's the part that resonated with me. That's the part that I felt like pierced right to my core. And that's not acting, right? When you can resonate with something so deeply and you can understand that. And you know, it's really interesting because a lot of times in my life, when I have come across other people who judge other people, like, I don't understand why that person would be with that person, or that person would do that thing. And I've been like, that has happened to me in the past as well, when I have judged. And every time we judge something we do not understand, we are put in a situation where we are on the other side of it for us to understand. And the reason that happens is that so we can have compassion. Because compassion lacks where judgment lies. And we're moving into an era where we are, I think judgment doesn't serve anymore. And it's about having compassion. And it doesn't mean that we have to agree with other people's choices and the things that they do. But compassion frees us from having any energetic ties to it as well, right? So that's what I've got for that. Yeah, 5:30 in the morning. I'm loving these polls. Like, come on, let's get this out there. And I'm gonna say the main fear that I had about sharing this, one of the biggest things was people saying, it's not even just what it's the judgment. It's the, who do you think you are to say that you communicated with so-and-so? And they're my own things to work through. I'm just going to be real about all this. But the words that I heard, Charlie had mentioned before taking this role, that it scared him. He was fearful to put himself in that psyche, put himself in that energy. And then he realized, because he was fearful of it, it meant he had to do it. And anytime we're on the cusp of fear, it's our safety mechanism telling us, don't go there, because it's trying to keep us safe from something. But every time I end up moving through fear, there's gold on the other side. So that's just kind of what I have. Take what you want with it, whatever. It's not my business what you do with this. But I hope it gives some perspective, and I hope it enlightens, even energetically, like what's happening. Because if I didn't know any of this stuff and I came across this video, I would have been like, that's the energetics, right? Understanding something you didn't know before. I always find that completely awesome, and it blows my mind all the time. So that's what I've got. So have a most beautiful rest of your day.